With all of the stereotypes and misconceptions about disability, I felt like there was a role that someone needed to fill, and I knew that I could do it.
Welcome back to the Chronically Positive podcast, where we dive into real, raw stories of resilience and creativity in the chronic illness community. I'm your host, Isla Oxman. Each week, I'll be talking with inspiring people who are finding purpose and meaning despite their challenges they face. This podcast isn't about facing positivity or pretending a good mindset is a solution. We all know it's not that simple. It's about recognizing our strength, our struggles, and the unique paths we're on. So whether you're newly diagnosed or have been navigating this journey for years, I hope you'll find some inspiration here. Today, I am thrilled to introduce Samantha Jade Duran. Samantha is a vibrant disabled influencer, designer, and activist known online as a disabled icon. As a pioneering voice in the disability community, Samantha uses her platforms to showcase adaptive fashion, disability rights, her journey as a Latina living with complex disabilities and chronic illnesses. Samantha is passionate about addressing the misconceptions surrounding disability and style. Without further ado, let's meet Samantha. Thank you, Samantha, for being on the podcast. You are our very first guest. It's super exciting. And I guess we'll just dive in and just start with your story and how you got to where you are now.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I was born with Mufuchi syndrome and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but when I was born, they didn't really know that. Because other than being very, very premature, I looked physically fine at the time. And then when I was maybe like a year and a half years old, I wasn't crawling, let alone walking. So that was a huge red flag in terms of developmental delay. So my parents, who are Venezuelan immigrants, took me to Venezuela from Miami, and I saw an orthopedic doctor there who took some x-rays, and he saw my body scattered with bone tumors, and he diagnosed me with Olliers disease, which is interestingly like the first phase, kind of similar to like Pokemon evolutions. It's like the first phase of Mufuchi syndrome. Then they brought me back to the United States, and they took me to another pediatric orthopedic doctor, and he misdiagnosed me with another rare bone disease it's more common. It's called polyostotic fibrous dysplasia.
I feel like a while back, or not too well, you were posting about how this actual diagnosis is fairly new.
So, okay, my life is so wild. Really, like, the lore is extensive.
Yeah.
But basically, I went my entire life from ages like 1.5 to like 18, thinking that I had fibrous dysplasia. Similar to people with fibrous dysplasia, like I had a limb difference, so my right leg was significantly shorter than the left, and they had to do leg lengthening. A lot of people are getting it now cosmetically, which actually pisses me off because I
I've
had to
seen
get
that. It just seems so invasive to just do cosmetically, and I'm sure it was a very painful recovery. I can't even imagine.
Yes. I didn't really have the choice. I had to do it for my health and for my future.
Right.
And on top of that, it's just so dangerous. Like, I was on the verge of having my leg amputated on several occasions just because of the infection risk. I would have so many infections all the time. And I don't know. I personally don't think it should be allowed for cosmetic purposes. Like, it's really dangerous. It's invasive. It's painful. It honestly rewires your brain at this point because it's just so traumatizing to basically have your leg broken and lengthened while you're awake. Anyway, I had all these surgeries growing up, including the leg lengthening. And then my mom was like my primary caregiver. So she would always take me to the doctor's appointments, take time off to do all those things, and take care of me for surgery. And then when I was 14, I was about to go under for surgery, one of my last surgeries in my teenage years. My mom was hospitalized. She had a really bad cough and she went to the ER. While I was waiting to go under, she was hospitalized. And I think part of me knew that she had cancer because she was a smoker, and my brother and I would always beg her to stop. I had a surgery, and for the first time in my life, I didn't have my mom. For those 2 weeks that I was recovering and I couldn't walk or do anything, my mom was also in the hospital, and I couldn't see her that whole time.
My mom has been my primary caregiver as well when things are really tough. So I can't even imagine not having her for that. And also, you can't be there for her too. You're both going through something and you can't be there for each other. So
It takes a village,
it does take
truly.
a village.
So she inevitably got diagnosed with lung cancer and unfortunately passed away less than a year later. My dad and I were so overwhelmed by grief, not just that, but also because my brother developed a severe form of schizophrenia at the same time that my
Wow.
mom died.
Yeah.
We were really focused on getting him the help that he needed. And yeah, so I didn't get any care for years, like years. That was like the first time that I had could I just went about my life without worrying about, getting my legs checked. Well, it turns out when I was 18, I was starting to have a lot of pain in my good leg.
Hmm.
And so I went back to my doctor and he asked me what was wrong. I told him everything. Between maybe like ages 7 to till then, I had been growing these weird bumps on my fingers. And we even had like a plastic surgeon remove them and she never told me like what they were. It was so strange. And no
Like
one was
test
what
them or anything? That's so
girl, I know it was so weird. Like no one could tell me. I know no one could tell me what they were. It was so weird.
wow.
Yeah, so then he was like, "Okay, let me get an x-ray." And I was like, "By the way, I have these weird bumps on my hands. Like I don't know why." And then he was like, "Oh, okay, let's go get the x-ray and I'll let you know." So I got the x-ray and I was always like a little like nerd. I would always read about rare diseases on Nord and I would keep up to with the literature on fibrous dysplasia on the NIH website and all like the
Yeah.
clinical trial stuff.
I'm
So
guilty as well. I do the same
honor,
thing.
guilty, truly, truly. So I always knew that there was like a really small chance that fibrous dysplasia could cause lung cancer. So when he took 2 hours to come back, I was like, oh, he's gonna tell me something like I probably have cancer.
I'm
Like,
dying.
yeah, and mind you, no, for real. And this was like 2 weeks before I was supposed to graduate from high school. It
That's
was
a
so crazy.
lot.
Yeah, no, oh my God. Yeah, so then he came back and in a really like cold, like honestly, like low-key apathetic tone, he
Yeah.
said, "So I think you have bone cancer. Also, you have multiple enchondromatosis with multiple hemangiomatosis." Or no, he said he thinks I have multiple enchondromatosis with multiple hemangiomatosis, aka Mufuchi syndrome. I was
Mm.
like, what's going on? And then he's like, I can't see you because that's like a really rare disease and I can't treat cancers, so you have to go to this other doctor.
I hate when they say that. When I got
Yeah.
diagnosed with my POTS, Ehlers-Danlos, and mast cell, the doctor I saw, he's like, "This is too complicated for me. You need to go somewhere else."
Oh
And then you
God.
gotta wait,
And then you have to wait.
and you gotta wait 7,000 years,
No,
and then you
literally.
deteriorate while you wait.
Literally. The best. The best.
Is the best. Yes.
When I tell you, I had to wait like 6 months before they could tell me that it was if it was cancer or not and whether I had this thing called Mufuji syndrome because I lost my insurance right after I graduated and then it was like a whole mess and I was like
Yeah.
crying the whole time and anyway, yeah, so then I got the surgery and it wasn't cancer, but it was like really close to becoming malignant and then they took biopsies from my hands, the what I now know are hemangiomas, aka these types of vein tumors. And yeah, they confirmed I have Mufuchi syndrome. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of research. I was 18. A lot has changed since then, but they said that I had a really high risk of developing like basically all malignant cancers and that I had to
Wow.
see them multiple times every year just to keep an eye on it and to let them know if I have like any new lumps or pain or like additional pain at night and stuff like that to catch the cancer early because it's not a matter of if it'll happen, it's more of a matter like when it'll
Right.
happen and
Yeah.
they want to be able to catch it early.
So you have to be like really aware and on high surveillance with yourself constantly.
No, truly, like it's no one like imagine being told like yeah, you're gonna get cancer, but like we just don't know when. Like you're
I
gonna be
would be
so
the most,
hypervigilant.
I would be a mess. I would be so paranoid and
No,
just
truly.
worried about it all the time because for me with my illnesses, I try not to focus on my symptoms, but for you, I
Mhm.
feel like you have to be, oh,
Literally.
that's new. Do I need to pay attention to that? Could that be something? That must be really
Hmm.
difficult because you're just trying to live your life and you have to focus on
Yeah,
all these
no,
things. How do you cope
literally.
with that?
Yeah. Well, I definitely have I have complex PTSD and I've had it since I was like a little girl,
Yeah.
but I got diagnosed as an adult with PTSD, and it's triggering. I can't control what goes on in my body, and I'm obviously very medically complex with not just the Mufuchi, but then the Ehlers-Danlos and the dysautonomia from long COVID. And dysautonomia, as you know, causes like a million symptoms. There's a lot of overlap between a lot of things, including things that could potentially kill you. Oh my God, no, okay, wait, can I say something funny?
Go for it.
I saw a reel recently. It was like some girl who had like health anxiety, basically like acting out her health anxiety, being like, oh my God, I have a headache. Ugh, I'm having a stroke. And it's like, or like,
I
oh my
saw
God,
that. Oh my God.
oh, you saw that one? She was like, my stomach hurts. I must have stomach cancer. And it's like, bro, for me, it's literally like that though.
Yeah.
Like literally, like I like for me, it's actually valid. That's the sad part. But the way I cope with it, I mean, yeah, it's really hard to cope with. It's like, uh, girl, it's a horrible thing, especially considering
Yeah.
that I have trauma regarding cancer with my mom and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So,
absolutely.
but over the years, I have found, I don't know if solace is the right word, but I found like solace with the fact that all of us have a limited time on earth, and for some of us it's shorter, and is that scary and maybe a little bit devastating because all of us would hopefully want to live a long and fulfilling life.
Yeah.
Yes, but I mean there are people who don't even realize who they really are until they're 40, and don't begin to live their dreams until they're 50, 60, 70, 80. So that's why I try to focus on the daily and be grateful that I'm alive today. And I try to really enjoy the little things, as corny as it sounds, because I mean, it could all end soon. So I might as well take advantage of the day and find the beauty in the little mundane parts of my day.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like a big part of that is this platform that you've created on social media. I mean, you're an absolute star.
Stop.
When I first started following chronic illness accounts on social media a little bit over 2 years ago, a lot of them were focused on how hard it is and how much it sucks. And I think that content is important to an extent, but your page really offers a very like, okay, I have this. What am I going to do with this? How am I going to be confident about it? How am I going to feel fulfilled? And how am I going to not allow this to stop me from wearing what I want and using the mobility aids that I need? And so when I saw your page, it was just like this like light went off. It was just a total shift. And I even am guilty of when I first started my page, a lot of it was health updates, what was going wrong. And I slowly shifted into humor and how can I help people? What are the tips that I have? What are some things that I've learned? Because I feel, and the title of this podcast is the Chronically Positive Podcast. And it's not about just be positive, change your mindset, and you'll do better. You'll feel better. Body follows the mind. And I do believe in some aspects of that. But
Yeah.
it's more about, okay, you have this. What are you going to do with it? And I think what you have created is amazing. And I'm curious, when did you start a disabled icon? When did this become?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. It really means a lot because growing up, I didn't really have that kind of representation and hope for, and like maybe like an adult that I could look up to and be like, wow,
Mhm.
okay, it's really going to be okay. Like I can do this. So when I was 23, I'm now 26. When I was 23, I was really bored and I was posting a lot on a really old account that I had. I would always post about my fashion and disability. At the time, I had people approaching me for years asking me, why don't you become a YouTuber? Why don't you become a content creator? And I was like, I don't know. But maybe like 3 years ago, I was like, you know what? There are disabled children out there who really need someone to look up to. And as you know, there's not a lot of disability representation in media, which is so necessary
Yeah.
to give hope to disabled youth. So, and again, also with all of the stereotypes and misconceptions about disability, I felt like there was a role that someone needed to fill and I knew that I could do it.
You did.
Yeah. So 3 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start posting just as a hobby and
Yeah.
see where things take me. And I just started posting a lot about being an ambulatory wheelchair user, about how I don't need to look a certain way to be disabled when, like, it doesn't really, disability doesn't have a dress code, honey.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I started posting. I went viral almost like a month in. It's been quite a journey, and I've been growing very steadily since. And it's the honor of a lifetime.
It's amazing. And you've collaborated with some pretty notable brands. How does that make you feel? That's just so incredible and what an accomplishment.
Honestly, like, if you had told me 3 years ago that I could be turning this into a career and be able to monetize it, I would not believed you because I just didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
But when brands started approaching me, I was like, wait, what do you mean you want to pay me to have access to my audience? Like, wow. And to do things that I love and just get paid for it, for something I was
Yeah.
doing for free for years, brands that I have looked up to for years, and that they're willing to collaborate with not just me, but other members of the disabled community. So it's been a really interesting and, like, a little bit shocking of a process.
Yeah. I know. The first time that a brand reached out to me, I was like, what?
Like, what do you mean? Like,
I'm just a sick little girl. What do you want from
I'm
me?
just a girl. Like, what do you mean?
What do you mean you're sending me a bidet? No, but it is so surreal. And it's when I started too, like, that wasn't my intention at all. It was more so to connect with people that
Mhm.
were going through what I was going through too. Because I felt very alone.
Yeah,
It,
no, for real. It really, because I relate because I felt really alone, especially with the Mufuchi part. Like, you feel really alone, especially like on your day to day. Like, people don't talk about disability. It's like a very hush hush thing up until lately. People have been opening up a little more. But seeing that there's a lot of people out there, millions of people out there that share your experience and that know what it's like and that can connect with you and that see you, or not just see you as someone who they can relate with.
so I want to know, what are some misconceptions that people have about fashion and disability?
Some misconceptions people have about fashion and disability is that people think they're mutually exclusive when they're really not. I feel like people think like we have to look like raggedy or something when, like, we can dress however we
Yeah,
want. Just
just
because I go to a doctor's appointment dressed up doesn't mean I'm not disabled or chronically ill.
no.
Just because I dress up doesn't mean I'm not suffering inside, you know? I don't have to externalize what I feel internally. I could bring, and honestly, every time I go to the doctor's appointment, like, every time I go to doctor's appointments, they tell me that, like, my outfits always bring them so much joy.
Mm.
My doctors and nurses tell me that it's so cute. So yeah, I truly love just dressing up, wearing colorful outfits because I truly think dressing up, like, really can influence not just your own mood, but it can influence the way that people interact with you and perceive you. Unfortunately, we live in a society
Yeah.
that's a little superficial like that. But yeah, there are a lot of people that think disabled people can't be fashionable, but I'm here to tell them that's not true.
No. Yeah, that's a really great answer because when I was just like sick in the beginning, thinking about the way that I looked was the last thing I thought about. But at the same time, I also felt really bad about myself. Just felt just so schleppy and just gross. And I was like, but why, why can't I dress up? Why, you know? And actually, brain is going all over the place. I think I saw you posted a photo with a bi-acre rollator. Was it in Sephora or something like that? Was it?
I do go to Sephora
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Anyways, I saw you with. I had been debating getting a rollator forever, and I know that my page is a lot about being confident and using what you need to use and stuff like that. But I had a really tough time accepting that
Mhm.
I needed a rollator.
Mhm.
And I saw you in this cute outfit out at Sephora being so confident. I was like, that's it. That's it. I'm getting a rollator. And now I have a
That's
bi-acre rollator, and it is my best friend. I
cute.
do not do a shopping spree without it. But
Yeah.
I will be honest, I still am not at that 100% confidence with it. You know, it's still hard for me, especially it's easy for me with people that I don't know. When it's with people
Right.
that I do know who haven't been with me for the extent of what's going on, and all of a sudden they see me using a rollator, it's like, what are
Feel
they
that. Yeah.
thinking? You know, because I'm actually doing better
Mhm.
than I ever have been, but I'm using
Right.
more mobility aids than I was when I first started. But that was just because I was just,
Oh,
what?
yeah.
Go ahead. What?
Dude, oh my God, no, no, no. Actually, that reminds me. First of all, I relate so much. It truly is a journey, like using mobility aids and different ones, especially around people that don't really know your journey like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's really nerve-wracking. And disability pride, I feel, isn't so linear. It's definitely a roller coaster more
Yeah.
than anything. But as for being more able to do things while looking more disabled, it's actually really funny you mentioned that. I recently got bilateral pink AFOs,
I saw.
ankle
They're
foot,
amazing.
ankle foot orthoses. I'm obsessed. Like, oh, pink is a neutral, I'm convinced. But thank you. But it's funny because my boyfriend, Mr. Bloodicon, he actually was shocked that they help you so much and that I'm able to walk more than, before,
Yeah.
and that I'm able to be more independent now with them on.
Yeah.
Without them, I'm like a wreck. I'm like Bambi, truly.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's ironic that you look more disabled, but you're actually like less disabled with them on.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It's amazing because it gives you freedom and it gives you confidence, and it took me a while for me to understand that, because before, when I would go to the mall, it was hiding in a corner or like behind a clothes rack and sitting down or laying down whenever I felt like I was going to pass out or was like
Damn.
low on energy or whatever it was, which makes you feel so much more disabled. But if I just had a chair or something with me, I wouldn't have felt as disabled as I did at the time. So,
So true. Also, like, I totally relate. Like, girl, the mommy issues are real. My mom would like force me to go to like the mall, knowing that I had a bone disease and like that it was painful for me and also dangerous with the
yeah.
fractures. She would force me to walk. Like, she
Ow.
wanted me to be as able-bodied as
Right.
possible. So she wanted me to like basically like force myself to do things, even if it was like harmful for me. It was,
Yeah.
I don't know. Latina moms are different, are built different. She would force me to go to malls and then get mad at me for wanting to sit down, and I would have to obviously sit down on the floor and
Yeah.
stuff. And honestly, yeah, I agree. Not only does mm, it's ironically not having any mobility aids makes you feel more disabled,
Yeah.
but also it's a little degrading having to sit on the floor like with all of the germs and
Yeah, and
grime and
especially
crustiness.
people with chronic illnesses, can't afford to get sick. And so you shouldn't be putting yourself in that situation if you don't have to.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think getting my rollator has definitely helped me live a better quality of life, and I'm glad that it has also helped you so much too.
yeah, so I just started working in person for the first time. First, when everything like blew up for me 2.5 years ago, it was on my second day of work, this new job, and I just graduated college, and like, life was going. I was looking at apartments, I was with a new boyfriend, everything was great. And I mean, not everything was great because I dealt with fainting like my whole life, but I was
Yeah,
functional.
yeah.
I could function through the high heart rate, and I could do things. I could go to the mall, I could, you know be
Mhm.
outside. And so on my second day of work, I passed out, and I never went back. It just was like,
Girl,
it, I can't work in person. I can't be around people because I'm worried if I feel faint. I don't want to tell someone, interrupt someone and be like, hey, I feel like I'm going to pass out. Sorry. Or like, I'm so hot. Can you open a window? A lot of it has developed a lot of anxiety around burden,
you're good.
burden.
Burdening.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, my brain is broken.
It's a
Burden.
dysautonomia for
Burdening.
sure.
Burdening? Is
Yeah.
that a word?
Yes. No, because words sometimes just sound unreal. Like,
Brain fog is
what do
real.
you mean burdening is burdening? Like, why does it
Burdening
sound like that?
other people, or like putting other people
Burdening
out.
is burdening you.
It is. Or just making other people feel uncomfortable because of what
Yeah.
I had to do to prevent passing out or throwing up or whatever it was. And through being on social media and building this community and learning kind of how to navigate, really nothing my doctors have given me the ability to go back to work. I mean, yes, I'm on medications that lower my heart rate. Okay, they have some credit for that. When I applied for this job, I wouldn't have gotten this job without starting this whole social media thing. This job has,
Oh, really?
yeah, so I've learned a lot about marketing and having a
Hmm.
business and all of that.
Yeah.
And my master's is in applied behavior analysis. And I originally wanted to be a child therapist. And the job that I had before I got really sick with POTS was working at an early childhood clinic. And I was on my hands and knees with 3-year-olds and potty training them. And it was a lot of body was involved. And I was like, I can never go back to that. And I even
Hmm.
remember my therapist being like, you need to change your career. And I wish she had never said that because
Yeah.
I think there's always a way, to figure out,
Adapt.
yeah, adapt. Exactly.
Yeah.
But my job is marketing associate for kids with learning differences. So I was able to mix the two together, but I would never have been able to do that and find that I love being creative more than I do being a therapist if I hadn't gotten sick. And I don't like saying everything happens for a reason. My dad and I love to say it's not the shit that happens to you, it's what you do with the shit.
Period. Oh my gosh. First of all, look, I'm like literally tearing up. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but like
Yes.
the tears are flowing. Like, first of all, I love that story. I love that you were able to turn your adversity and into something that is fruitful fruitful for you and adapt it, in a way that works for you. I think that's so amazing and I'm so proud of you.
Mm.
Like, I think this is why it's so important for people like you and I to be vocal and have visibility,
Yeah.
not just on the internet, but everywhere.
Yeah.
Because so many disabled people are told what your therapist told you that, oh, you're going to have to change your careers. You're going to have to XYZ. And you know what? I don't accept that.
That's what I told her.
I
And I
don't
left. I
accept.
said, we're done.
You're done.
We're done. Yeah.
No, because seriously,
It doesn't define you. And that's the whole thing, like with accessibility. Why should the world adapt to people who have disabilities? Because almost every person in the world will be disabled at some point in their life, even if it's not till you're 101 years old. That shouldn't keep you from doing
exactly.
everything else. And is it really so much of a burden to have the world learn how to be flexible? And that's why we're here.
Yeah. Disabled people aren't burdens. Accessibility and ableism is a burden to us.
Yes.
Period. If the world was accessible and if people were more open-minded, all the things that people look down on us for wouldn't exist. The oppressors are oppressing us and then are wondering why we need help. Like, you put us in this situation.
We're in an inaccessible world. And that's why creators like you are so important. And everyone else on social media who's listening, if you have a platform, thank you. Because I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without everyone that I have found on social media and seeing what's possible and what's out there. I do believe I wouldn't say healthier. I feel just everything that I've seen and learned, I just know that I'm functioning better and more in tune with my
Mhm.
body because of everything that I've learned from everybody in the community.
I definitely relate, and I agree. I created a disabled icon, and it kind of gave me like a little sense of purpose,
Yeah.
knowing that I was helping people. So I think creating a disabled icon has saved my life, like truly.
That's beautiful. I love that. That's really incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've probably have saved a lot of people too. Do you ever get messages from people just saying how much you've impacted them?
I do get them quite a bit, and it's very moving for me because I didn't grow up with someone that I could look up to
Yeah.
and know that it's going to be okay even if it's difficult.
Yeah.
And it's very fulfilling to know that I'm the person I needed when I was growing up.
Wow.
Can I read you one? I
Yes.
actually got one
Yes,
today.
please.
It was a mother for her like young disabled daughter. Let
Oh,
me hold on.
wow.
Yeah, let me find it. So this meant a lot because I mean, as you know, I recently started wearing AFOs. So I guess I'm on my AFO journey myself.
Yeah.
But so this mother said, sending all the best of luck vibes for the trial. This was in regard to a Mufuchi syndrome
Mm-hmm.
study. She said, also just want to say a massive thanks for rocking the AFOs so beautifully.
Oh.
My 4-year-old daughter has had one for a year now and is pretty good about wearing it, but has no one in her life regularly that needs visible mobility aids. So as she gets older, it's been a bit hard sometimes.
Mm.
Being able to show her a young, stunning woman who wears the same device she does has put a wonderful smile on her face. I know living on the internet must be horrid sometimes, but this little girl in Australia thinks the world of you.
That's incredible.
Oh my God. It's just like, it's healing
It's
to
so
get those kinds of
healing.
messages. Because that's what I needed growing up. So to know that I could have that kind of impact on someone, like, it really means a lot. Sorry.
No, you have me. I'm crying too. That's wow. You know, I mean, I relate to that little girl too, and I relate to you because growing up, I always knew that something was wrong with me. Like,
Mhm.
why am I hurting? Why are my knees feeling like they're hanging from like strings? And why am I
For real.
dizzy all the time? And why am I nauseous just by eating one bite of food?
Ugh.
And even I used to dance as a kid and I stopped because my knees were popping out and no doctors knew. And now I
Mhm.
see people who are dancing from their wheelchairs. I wanted to quickly talk about access to all now. Yeah,
Yeah.
tell me about
So,
that.
yeah. So basically, I went to Spain in August, specifically Barcelona. And listen, I'm not saying that Barcelona or Spain are perfect when it comes to accessibility, but they really opened my eyes to how the Americans with Disabilities Act is not enough in the world, in the United States specifically, and that we could be doing more. For example, there's a lot of cobblestone, and you know what they did? Instead of basically forcing wheelchair users to pop wheelies or to be pushed by someone and struggle the entire time and damage their wheelchairs, they put like a pavement, like a smooth pavement over the cobblestone, a specific section designated to mobility aid users, and put a little accessibility sign on it. Something so simple like that.
Yeah.
But I went to the beach, and unlike here in the United States, the beaches that I went to there, they had ramps all the way down in the water, and they had two canopies um with like wood that you could just go under and rest there instead of having to go in the sand. And it was also covered, so it's
Yeah.
amazing for people like you and I with heat intolerance.
Yeah.
Um, they also had like a huge wheelchair accessible bathroom with like medical grade Hoyer lifts and a ton of other like
Wow.
and like not only that but like changing tables that were like adult sized. It was so mind-blowing and breathtaking to see how accessible they were. And not only that, but they also had employees that were like there,
Wow.
which I'm sure were provided by the government. So
Yeah.
I found that fascinating, and they weren't perfect, but damn, I was taken aback, especially because like here in the US, like if I'm in my wheelchair, if I stand up in public, I'm gonna be burned at the stake. Like I'm gonna be, oh
Yeah.
my God. they're gonna call me a witch. Like, um, whereas there, I would stand up for my wheelchair and no one would bat an eye. Like, it was flabbergasting to see the radical difference in people's not just like the accessibility, but also people's attitudes toward disabled people. And people would even go out of their way to help me, something I don't see a lot here. Like, people are just so nice and they wouldn't ask intrusive questions. I saw a lot of disabled people out independently.
Wow.
You know what? That's wild. Like, you don't see that here for a reason. It's because we're
Yeah.
segregated by the inaccessibility.
Yeah.
So, and even like the elevators had like signs that said absolute priority, disabled people, elderly, pregnant women, strollers, whatever, things like that. And then if there were like non-disabled people waiting, they would have to let me go on first, rather than here where I could be waiting to use the elevator and I will be the first person there, and all these like, people that are like seemingly non-disabled, although I don't like to assume, it's like crowds of them get in front of me and then don't let me get on. And it's like a
Wow.
cyclical process where I'm like stuck waiting to use the
Right.
elevator for 20 minutes because people are so inconsiderate. So
Yes.
yeah, oh my God, so aggravating, bro. So this is everywhere here
Yeah.
in the US. So this really piqued, like, intrigued me. So I started doing research, and apparently they had like their own version of the ADA. And similar to here, they didn't really have like an agency to enforce it. Um, So in the 2010s, they actually passed a complementary act to their version of the ADA to ensure that it's not only federally enforced and that there's people overseeing the accessibility, but that disabled people are also socially integrated into society.
Wow.
So I was I was really inspired by that, and I started looking into that, and I realized that that's what's missing in the disability rights movement here in the United States. And I really want to get a law, a complementary law to the ADA that could ensure that accessibility is enforced federal through federal oversight of an agency dedicated to disability rights and accessibility, but that also ensures that disabled people are integrated into society to ensure that we lead full, dignified lives
Yes.
as independently as possible.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So we're in the very beginning phases. We're starting to talk to some people who are interested in organizing the movement, and um, we're going to be drafting up some like basically the blueprint of the policy that we want to introduce to Congress with key advocate representatives. And also in the future, we will be staging protests.
Wow. That's incredible. Go you. You are awesome. Well, it has been truly an honor talking to you. I'm so
Likewise.
happy that I got to meet you. You are exactly, I mean, you're so genuine. Like, you are who you are on your social media. You're amazing.
Um,
Where can listeners find you on social media?
well, first of all, thank you so much. Honestly, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for hosting me. For anyone watching, if you want to follow me, you can find me on all platforms as a disabled icon.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
what a fun conversation. Thank you so much for tuning into this first episode. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one, where I'll be interviewing an incredible guest who has built a powerful platform advocating for others with chronic illness. It's going to be an amazing conversation, and I can't wait to share it with you. Until next time, stay strong, stay positive, and remember, even in the toughest moments, we have the power to make something good out of our journey.